Welcome to Strategic Career Planning for Leaders. My name is Daniel Mueller, the Executive Director of SOLIDleaders. With me is Monique Cunningham, our Head of Marketing. Monique is going to ask you some questions along the way, perhaps. She'll manage the chat. So if you have any questions and you want to chat with her or with me, please feel free to do so. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen, and this presentation is also going to be sent to you at the end of this presentation. So let's see, we will play it from the start. Okay, Strategic Planning for Leaders, a roadmap for advancing a leader's career. This deck started coming about approximately 10 years ago. And I was at that time 51 years old. I had been coaching for 21 years. And I had always been coaching people 10 to 20 years my senior. So as I climbed the ranks of the Fortune 500 CEO and C-suite coaching business, I would be working with guys, men and women, who were in their 50s, 60s, and even 70s. And I watched as those clients retired. And what I noticed is that those who did a really good job of retiring didn't actually retire, but they did something else. And those that didn't do a good job of retiring and didn't have a really satisfying, rich, fulfilling life and kind of fizzled out and deteriorated pretty rapidly, well, I watched what those people did. And so I evolved this deck on strategic planning for leaders, and someday I'll put it into a book and hopefully will help even more people. But here goes. Let's start with the end in mind. So wherever you are in your career right now, you may be in your 30s, 40s, 50s, even 60s, but you have further runway to go in full-time work. But eventually, all of us are going to end up somewhere. That somewhere I'm going to call portfolio life. And what I would say in portfolio life is that multiple streams will make a rich river. It'll make a rich river of interest as well as activity and sources of income. So just like you diversify an investment portfolio, you start diversifying your career portfolio. And we'll explain what that means. But first, the question, what should I do when I retire? Well, retirement is a bad idea. Dullness sets in quickly. The muscles start atrophying, your intellectual muscle, your emotional intelligence muscles, and you should retire when you need hospice. So that's the wisdom here. And if all you get from today is just that saying, I'm going to retire when I need hospice, you will do well in portfolio life, in this semi-retirement, we'll call it, stage of life. So what is portfolio life? It's a diversified set of activities. It's like a smorgasbord of activity where you have a lot more flexibility, where you can pick and choose what you want to do, and you can add things and delete things pretty quickly. For example, maybe you want to start sitting on boards, and you sit on 2 and then 3 and then 4 and then 5, and then you decide, I want off of that board. Well, it's a lot easier to get off of a board than it is to get out of a full-time role as CEO or senior executive in a company, right? But here's a question for you. What is your strategic career plan? What is your plan to get you to where you're going to go? Most people do not have a strategic career plan. And if they do have it, it's in their head, it's not in writing. So companies have their own plan for you. And their plan is to leverage your skills and abilities to serve the company's needs. And that's fair and that's valid, but that's their plan for you. That's not your best plan necessarily. So you're responsible for your own career. That's the net. You have to choose where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. So the call to action here is take control over your own career. So what is your strategic career plan? Are you starting to plan for a portfolio life now? Are you planning for that time when you're in a fractional zone where you're able to do a smorgasbord of activities like speak, write, teach, consult, coach, advise, sit on nonprofit boards, sit on for-profit boards, that diversified set of activities? And we would like to just put it into the chat. Do you have a written career plan? There's a need for a roadmap. If you want to get from Dallas to Denver, there is a straight path, and I'm going to give you the straight path. But driving without a roadmap and a clear destination may get you somewhere where you don't want to go. My experience of doing so far 1,350 some odd engagements, coaching engagements in the last 31 years. So that's a lot of patterns that I've been able to identify and recognize. And the most common pattern is a directionless career. Say that again, directionless career. In other words, you're at the effect. You're not the causal agent, but you've just been at the effect. You're at the effect of recruiters calling you saying, hey, I got an opportunity for you. Well, that recruiter is trying to fit a round peg in a round hole. They're not thinking about what's best for your career. They're thinking, okay, what will do to satisfy the client's needs? The client has given me a specification of what they're looking for in the CEO or senior executive or VP of whatever, and I want to make that happen because that's how I get paid. You, on the other hand, need to look at your career and say, what is my career trajectory? What is my career path? And design it out strategically and in writing. Here's the steps to developing your roadmap. Step number 1, look long range. So look out to portfolio life, because as you contemplate portfolio life right now, what you'll find is there's certain areas of interest. I'll give you an example of real life application. So I had a client who was really wanting to do speaking and teaching in portfolio life. His last job before going into semi-retirement or portfolio life, he got a role in business development. Now this is a GM running $150 million P&L for a major corporation. But he took a job in business development because it was going to give him the opportunity to A, expand his network, B, do a lot more public speaking, and C, prepare with a greater flexibility of schedule for portfolio life. And he's still on that path now. He's been on that path for 5 years, and I'm sure after he stops doing this gig that he currently has, he'll be really well positioned to do the speaking and the teaching that he wants to do. So step number 1, define long-range goals. Another example, you want to get on boards. Don't wait till you're in portfolio life to start looking around for board seats, because the very first question that CEOs are going to be asking you is, well, how much experience do you have sitting on boards? So the more experience you have and the more board seats you've had over the years, the better. So we want that experience coming into portfolio life. Another example, you have an idea of becoming an author. Well, you need to be writing now and publishing now and doing blogs now and doing white papers now and getting something out now, not waiting until you're in portfolio life and you start writing. You should have been writing for the last 10 or 15 or 20 years. I have guys that are hiring me now that are in their 40s preparing for their 60s, 20 years, and they're planning now for portfolio life, and they're being very intentional, and they're going to have awesome, awesome careers that are going to make them a lot of money, create lots of wealth, as well as completely prepare them for what they'll be doing when they're not doing full-time work anymore. And I am seeing a trend, and the trend I'm seeing is people are getting into portfolio life earlier and earlier. I have a client actually right after this webinar today, Ken, and Ken is 46 years old, and Ken is in portfolio life. So he just stopped the full-time work, and now he's hanging out a shingle. He's doing some consulting. He's doing some coaching through us. He's starting up a business, consulting business, and he's putting together a fractional life, getting on boards, etc. Okay, so 1, define long-range goals. 2, define your mid-range goals. And 3, define what you're going to do for your next role. We call this 3-step process reverse engineering. So a question for you. Are you satisfied with your current role? You know, we do polls sometimes during these webinars, and we find that approximately 50% of all people that attend these webinars are not satisfied in their current role. So we do 3 kinds of coaching here. We do executive leadership coaching, helping grow an executive's leadership trajectory and his growth or her growth inside of a company. We do career coaching, helping somebody to make a career transition or create a career plan and then make a transition to a new executive role. Or the third kind is onboarding coaching, where we help an executive start a new executive role. Anyway, are you satisfied with your current role? Send us a chat and let us know. It's interesting to see the chat. Okay, sweet spot defined. The question that I get asked a lot is, Daniel, what should I go do? And I look at their resume, and after looking at thousands of resumes over the years, I've come up with this model. It's called sweet spot. So if you've ever played any kind of racket sports, tennis, racquetball, maybe golf, and where that golf club hits the ball in such a perfect way, and you hear that pop, and wow, that ball just takes off. Or the racket hitting the ball hitting the racket right in the sweet spot of the racket. So you should hit your sweet spot. And that is the intersection of 4 indices. The natural career direction. So you're the natural way. So if you've been like CTO, you probably shouldn't try to go CRO or VP of sales. If you've been in finance your whole career, your last job should be your best job. That's a general principle for everyone. Your last job should be your best job. And oftentimes that CFO has that ego of, I really want to become a CEO someday. So their last job is their CEO job. They walking into that job, they have a 50% chance of getting fired as it is. They do get fired after a year in the role. And 1 out of 5 get fired or quit in the first year of any senior executive role, by the way. You got a 20% chance. And then that person is sitting in my office, dejected, walking into portfolio life now with a scar, with baggage, with a failure, instead of maybe taking one last job as CFO and doing a great job, the best job as CFO, and hitting out of the park and going into portfolio life with head up high, victory. So natural career direction if you can. Now, if you're young, there's plenty of time. If you're in your 30s and 40s, there's plenty of time to make career adjustments and go in different directions. But I'm talking about for those later in their career, which is probably half of the participants in this webinar, be careful. And the recommended wisdom here is natural career direction. Stay within your sweet spot. The second area is your greatest soft skills. Third area is your proven abilities. And the skills are defined as what I call Beethoven. Beethoven was skilled at something and he was brilliant at something. What was he skilled at? Piano playing. He wasn't a world-class pianist, but what he was really talented at was composing. So he was a great composer. Okay, so your greatest soft skills leads you to exploit your talents. Your proven abilities. You have a proven ability to function in a certain size company. I've seen many executives that have proven abilities in the public company space, and they, for years and years, have worked in public companies over and over and over. And in fact, I hired one to be my CEO at one point here at Solid Leaders, and he failed miserably because the smallest thing he ever ran was a $500 million company, and he runs a small $1 million consulting firm and coaching firm, and he just bombed. He couldn't handle it. He had no idea how to work in a very small entrepreneurial environment. So hit your sweet spot of your proven abilities. You have a proven ability to work in a certain size, in a certain function, with certain types of businesses, VC-backed, PE-backed, publicly traded, whatever. But the most important indice is greatest passion. So you should do what you're most passionate about. And that's where you'll have the greatest energy and drive and vitality. And that's where you'll feel the most alive and the most vibrant, and you'll be the most successful. So the intersection of these four is what you should go do, if possible. Hitting your sweet spot, and this is a more complex diagram. I'll explain this to anyone who wants to take me up on my offer of 3 complimentary coaching sessions. So anyone who attends our webinar today, we're giving 3 complimentary coaching sessions to you to use any way you want, to use to grow your leadership skills, to grow your career, to further unpack this information, to onboard effectively into a new role. So any kind of executive development. If you're an executive, that's our offer. But it's only for executives because that's my sweet spot is CEOs and those that report to a CEO, or maybe those that report to CEOs. But that's my space. We'll get into a definition of terms. And like I said, we'll send you this deck. But let's get into bifocal career planning. So a very wise man taught me this. You need bifocal planning at all times. So just like you look through bifocal, some of you do, you look at your career bifocally. You look at the now, what are you going to do next? But you also look big picture at the career, overall career. And you notice there's a progression, and I call it next and next, next. So reverse engineering, look at portfolio life, think about what you want to do in portfolio life, reverse engineer that to your next role. What should you do next? What do you want to do next after this next role? And if you can define that, what you should do next becomes a lot easier. And now you're being more strategic in your thinking and in your planning. So toward a portfolio career, it's a journey to a diversified portfolio. So let's look at this. Here in the bottom left corner is someone who has a job focus. This person is just heads down buried in their job. And the problem is that they're not spending time thinking about their career. They're not networking. They're not growing their network. And then somehow, some way, they come to us and they get religion. Say, I've got to start planning for portfolio life. They say, okay, so that's the next circle. I'm going to start looking at getting on boards. So they hire a career coach like me, and I help them get on a for-profit and a non-profit board. So they've got some board seats. They're liking it. They have vision for their future. They say, in 10 years, when I'm in portfolio life, I'm going to really make it a major focus of mine to sit on boards. And I have a couple of clients now that I've been coaching actually for 2 decades, and I'm helping them get on boards. And I just referred Jim to to a company in Dallas, and Jim is being made an offer to sit on this board, and it's going to really be extremely good for him. He's on 2 boards now. But what's the point? The point is that this person who's sitting on boards and is preparing for portfolio life has an exit. The company gets sold. I just had a client sell their company this week. It made big news. We got a huge exit. It was a VC-backed company. He grew it to $50 million and got, I think, $250 million for the company. Anyway, bottom line is you have an exit, and now all of a sudden you find yourself in portfolio life. Or maybe you decide, I'm done. Now I'm going to be exclusively in portfolio life. And something comes along, and look at that next circle, unsuccessful retirement. Something comes along that's just too good to pass up. It's compelling, and you take it, but you take it with a different attitude now. So the attitude shift when you're taking a job after that decision to be in portfolio life is often, it's a project, it's not a career move. So it's a 2-year turnaround, or it's a quick startup, get it sold in 3 years, but it's more of a project. It's less of an actual serious career move where you're looking at a 5 to 10 year stay inside the company. Many people don't do that now anyway these days. 3 to 5 years is the average time that I see executives stay inside of companies. Okay, so eventually, though, you will be in portfolio life full time. And so just for perspective, let's talk about the journey from receiving to giving. So early on, your 20s, 30s, 40s, you're in this growth mode. So you're trying to receive. You're trying to receive mentorship, coaching, development. You're trying to grow. You're trying to achieve. You're trying to climb the corporate ladder. And at a certain point, you reach Maslow's tip of hierarchy of needs, and you start giving back. So this is the give back phase. And the major give back phase is when you're in portfolio life for good. But portfolio life is a great time to be giving back because you have this diversified set of activities. You can really change the pieces of your pie at will, relatively speaking. And you can add a lot of altruistic, community-oriented services, nonprofit, community service I mentioned, but just the give back, mentoring people, helping in a more giving way, less about receiving, less about you, more about others. It's a great time of life. So here is the most important slide, in my opinion, in the deck, because this is a sample of portfolio activities, and I've shared this slide with thousands of executives so far, and I have not gotten any addition to this deck in several years now. So if you have an idea of what to add to this list, please tell me. But this is the general short list of things that executives do in portfolio life. So the work has been done for you by hundreds of executives that have gone before you, have figured this thing out, and you can think about this. You can have a coaching session around this. I can help you understand what these things are. But basically, planning for portfolio life involves getting a vision for what you're going to do and then starting to dabble. And we'll talk.
Daniel, your audio just went out. Can you hear me? There we go.
Sorry about that. I clicked mute.
Okay, thank you.
Was it an improvement, Monica? Monique?
Oh, no, we enjoy hearing you. I just was like, you went away, but no, continue on, please.
There's benefits of portfolio life, and we're not going to go into all the benefits, but it's rich. There's some obstacles, and I can help you overcome those obstacles. Taking a sabbatical is okay, but not too long. And then section 3, roadmap to advancing your career. We're in the home stretch now, so we're just going to race through this. But if you want to work on any of these topics, I'm available 3 complimentary sessions to do this, or we have a completely different scope of work to grow you as an executive, to help you grow as a leader. But here's our scope. If you were saying, help me to make a career move, which is probably about 50% of you on this webinar want to do that. These are the 8 steps that you have to take to yourself through the process, or we can help you through this. And I'll let you read them when you get the deck. And then in summary, the ideas for next steps. Dabble in portfolio life now. Experiment. Brainstorm with a solid coach what portfolio life is like and others. Begin research. Do informational interviews. Assess where you are today. Assess where you want to be in 10 to 20 years. Some of you, it's 2 to 3 years. Develop a demanding written career plan. There's a big message for you today. Have a written career plan. I think it's totally ironic that you spend hundreds and hundreds, if not more, hours doing strat planning every quarter or every year for your companies, but you don't do strategic planning for yourself and you don't have a written career plan. And I can solve that for you in just a couple of sessions. And then hire a career coach. And that is not self-serving, because I'm not saying hire me. I'm not for everyone. I'm tough. I'm no nonsense. I don't pull punches. I don't flatter. I don't stroke egos. I'm all about the business of helping you have the best possible career or grow yourself the fastest and accelerate yourself as an executive in place, being more effective, having greater performance. So the point, get a career coach, get a leadership coach. Coaching works. You wouldn't think about going on the pro circuit of any sport without a coach. You wouldn't think about being a professional actor without a coach. You wouldn't think about being a professional politician without a coach. But you're an executive and you don't have a coach. Get a coach. Here is the conclusion. We will give you 3 complimentary sessions. These are the steps of our career coaching toolbox. We have a very robust toolbox. We'll give you all of our tools. Everything that you see here comes with it. We're going to set you up in Google Drive. You'll have access to all of our IP, all of our expert systems for assessment, for goals, for tools, resume, bio, elevator speech. Again, this is the career track. We have a similar one for leadership development of growing as a CEO or a senior executive. Okay? And we'll provide all those tools for you. Complimentary. It's several $1,000s worth of tools. It's several $1,000s worth of coaching. And it's all complimentary just to give you a taste for what Solid can do for you, in the hopes that some of you are going to want to hire us long-term for coaching. And in the deck, there's a little bit about us and there's a little bit about me. So we do 3 main things: career coaching, onboarding coaching, and leadership coaching. We would love to help you. And Monique, we are on time and under budget. It's 10:30.
Love that. Love that. Does anyone have any questions? I've put in the chat the link to the 3 complimentary executive coaching sessions with Daniel. You will also receive, like he said, the deck that's coming to you from this presentation, as well as the link to book your free complimentary session with Daniel will be in that email. So be looking for it because it's coming today. So make sure you're looking out for it. Or you can just click through the chat and go ahead and book your time now with Daniel and get on his calendar. We do ask that you try to at least book within the next couple of 30 days. Not that it's in the next 30 days, but at least you're on the calendar within the next 30 days. You know, it could be April, May, what have you. But just make sure you do that soon. I can tell you from experience, his sessions do fill up very quickly. And so if you're on that page and you don't see any sessions open, there is a way to contact us via email, and that will be in all those emails. But the best way to book is by clicking that link and booking your session. It will happen so much faster for you if you do it that way. And we just appreciate you being here.
Yeah, the last thing to say is I am out of the country from the 31st of this month to the 12th or 13th. So I'll be picking back up on the 13th. I'll be coaching again on the 13th, and I have plenty of availability in the third and fourth weeks of February. Okay, everyone, thank you for attending, and best to you and your success in managing and growing and planning your career. Ciao.